We're live. Well, hi everyone. Looks like we're live. I thought we weren't for a minute there. And today we're going to do a whole talk about symbols and symbolism, and particularly why symbols can be useful perhaps in clairvoyance and what they mean. So we're going to say hello to everyone first.
Hello from Seattle.
Seattle, that's in America. Hi, yeah, from Seattle. I suppose a lot of you in America are all on lockdown, aren't you? It's still in California and things like that, you know. So you have time to listen to us. Hiya,
Karina.
Clean Clerk. Oh, that's an unusual name. Tell us where you're from, guys. It's always interesting to hear where people are connecting with us from as well. Hiya there again.
Cornwall.
Yeah. So yeah,
agility bits.
Oh, agility bits. We come every week, don't you? Thanks for joining us regularly. And those that are just joining this channel for the first time, you can see us every Friday at the same time at 7 o'clock UK time. So that's GMT, I think it'd be.
Netherlands.
Hi from the Netherlands.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah, it's nice. We get people from all over. We get them from America, Canada again. Hi there. Toronto. It's a bit. We learn your geography with this.
Hi Justin.
And once we got everybody online and we're settled in, we'll start telling you a little bit about symbolism and what it means. Yeovil, not that far from us.
California.
Yeah, there's a lot of problems there in California at the moment. And there we are from Brighton again.
Justin.
Hi, Justin. We've seen you a few times.
Oh, Hong Kong.
Oh, yeah. Troubles all around the world from all over the place.
And Totten.
Totten. Just been to Portons Park. Yeah,
Was
that's
it good?
Fun. I'm surprised they're still open at the moment.
Texas.
Houston, Texas. Fantastic. Guatemala. Oh, okay. So all the symbolism is going to be interesting to talk about because, you know, symbolism kind of varies a bit around the world. But there's a sort of a universality to it as well, isn't there? We'll talk about all that in a minute. Connecticut. Wow. Cyprus. Oh, that's interesting.
Gail. Oh, hi, Gail. I know Gail.
Do you? I know some people in Cyprus
She's
too.
been for a reading.
The fellow that edits my books, which you can all go and buy at psychics.co.uk.
She originally comes from Sweden. She's lovely.
Salisbury, Wiltshire. So we seem to have a few local to us-ish. Bahrain. Well, I spoke too soon. So, right, symbolism. So don't forget, when we're going to be starting off a talk in a moment about symbolism and what it means and some ideas about symbolism. And, you know, have a think yourself if you'd like to ask any questions. And later on, once we finish this, we can sort of open up the talk to answer any other questions too. You know, don't have to stick to the subject. But this is going to be our starting point. And as you can see, don't forget to subscribe to this channel if you're brand new, because we do something every week. There's lots of stuff coming up all the time on this channel. We got advanced readings, so you can pick up on readings. We do our predictions. We do, Jane and I doing this live show. Got a lot of new stuff planned once this coronavirus problem's out the way. And yeah, and all sorts of stuff, including a mystic journey to India you can go and watch as well, which I've now published here on YouTube. So you can sit and watch the whole evening of watching me in India, if that appeals to you at all. So symbolism. What do you think about symbolism, Jane? Do you want to start off?
Well, I quite like the Hindu symbolisms, what Sharavana does, the guru. And that you could talk some.
Oh well, I'll get us started with some thoughts about symbols. I've got myself some notes here so I can remember what I was going to talk about. Okay, right. Symbols are, you know, if you think about symbols, that the same symbols come up all over the world, don't they? They come up in every culture. Certain things, even people that haven't had contact with each other, keep coming up with the same symbolism. For example, the snake. You know, that's a symbol that you'll find in India. You'll find it in the Amazon. You'll find it in the ancient Greeks as a symbol of medicine and so forth. You'll see it in Britain, Europe, Africa, just about everywhere. And then also symbols are things like fire as a transformative thing is there all over the world, isn't it? It's everywhere. And the symbol of the cross is also comes across all over the world. You'll get the symbol of the trickster image. You'll get the symbol of the mother and the father, and all this type of things that have been explored by people like Carl Jung, and Freud, and that when they were looking at dreams and things like this. But these symbols, I think, go right back to the very first days when we first started thinking, because we didn't think in words, which are also symbols, but we thought in pictures, and we thought in the terms of the things that were around us. So all those things in our environment were influencing how we thought. So I think primitive people, as it were, early man, archaic man and woman, thought in pictures. And when we go to sleep at night, we access that really ancient part of our mind that thinks differently to our conscious mind. It thinks in symbols, it thinks in metaphors, it thinks in allegories. And I think that behind our normal consciousness, behind our normal sort of civilized awareness, there's all these strange images and symbols that are there stuffed away in the back of our mind, just below the surface. Some of them very frightening, because they go right back to the times, when, survival was uncertain, and where things like the night and the images and the creatures of the night still roam, and that's just below the surface.
I can think of a symbol for you, Craig, washing machine symbol.
Yeah, well, we use symbolism also to explain things, don't we? We use, obviously, symbols on our computer screen, and words and letters and numbers are symbols in a different way. But we have, I think we think in symbols. So we think what symbols mean. Spiritually, they have a very powerful meaning. Do you find that symbols come up when you're doing readings for people sometimes?
Yes, I always like to meditate on 108, so 108 as a symbol.
Well, it's a number symbol, but don't you find that sometimes, like, you give a message to someone and you'll get something and you think, actually that might be a sign, a symbol, a symbolic thing that represents something in your life? Because when you're working with clairvoyance, you get your mind is throwing up things from the unconscious, from the hidden part of yourself, isn't it, which thinks in symbols.
Well, and sometimes if people get messages from the spirit world, it might be symbolic in a symbol that they understand.
So often these symbols come someone who's thinking completely deaf must think in pictures.
That's true.
That's probably true. If you look at the way you think, all of us think, I don't know how anyone else thinks except me, because I can't tell how someone else thinks. And I don't think even a psychologist knows how someone else thinks, because some people, sometimes I think very abstractly, Sometimes when I'm really tired, I'll think just in words, because I can't think any abstract way.
Like Freud and Skinner, they had symbolic things like the train going through the tunnel.
Yeah, and sometimes you think in pictures and images and representations. And the thing about all these symbols is that, like I say, they're just below the surface, and they can have a powerful effect upon us. If you think about a symbol such as, I wrote a couple of them. The swastika. Right now, that was a symbol,
the Tibetan,
originally a Hindu and Tibetan symbol that represented the unfolding of the universe. But now it's become a powerful symbol that's kind of embedded in our minds somewhere. Modern people can't think about that without thinking also of war and destruction. And yet, when I go to India, I see the swastika all over the Hindu sculptures, and there as a symbol of the unfolding of Dharma and the universe, and a positive symbol that's been used, like Hitler was a great one for symbolism. He'd use fire, fire is like anger, but it's also a symbol of transformation, and so fire can become a very potent thing that touches all those ancient memories deep inside our mind, can't it?
And also pinch the symbol of the eagle too.
From the Romans, he took that. I I like the fact that the people next door, or just down the road there, have got their what they think is the rainbow flag for the NHS up, and our gay friends further down the road are laughing at it, aren't they? So we take the symbol of a rainbow, for example. A rainbow is like the symbol of hope, isn't it? I mean, it came in the Bible. You know, it became after rain. We see a rainbow in the sky.
And the dove.
So our association is with that over centuries, is that after rain comes the rainbow. Therefore, that's a good thing, because we know those heavy rains, because it comes after heavy rains, are gone and the sun comes again. So that becomes a symbol of hope. And then other people will take that symbol and apply it to their cause, as it were. But ultimately, it's a symbol of hope, you know. So these symbols can be used in different ways, can't they? They can be taken from one meaning and given another meaning, or a political meaning sometimes. Do you think?
The Normans and the Saxons, they had symbolisms.
Yeah, well,
the
and the Vikings, and again, that was another one that Hitler liked. He took the symbols of Odin and the old Norse gods, didn't he? And the old Germanic gods, you know, and the idea of the Superman too, because there's a strong symbolism of the idea of the hero. You know, this comes up in Greek mythology, comes up in all mythologies. This idea that this heroic figures are symbolic of the person we would like to be, we would like to become. Like we see it now in the Marvel stuff that goes on, Superman and Batman and Spider-Man and all that. They are kind of appealing to that deep kind of mythical side of ourselves, you know, that side of ourselves that still is there in the jungles, really, is still fighting the battles, bloody battles on the battlefields, and is it's symbolic of, you know, our struggle through life from becoming just an ordinary person to becoming an heroic person, you know.
Or like Knights of the Templars, Craig.
Yeah, and all the ideas that come up in mythology.
Secrets.
If you think about it, and that's still here today. We often misuse it in things like advertising. We'll take a symbol that appeals to the very depths of a person's being, and we will twist and use that symbol to try to sell a product, or we'd use it in a religion to twist and sell a religion as well, you know, because they can all be used, because it's the original way we thought. It goes back to the reptilian mind, the old mind that lies behind all things, and things like, you know, and we often need a symbol to attack, don't we? Recently, in the Black Lives Matter movement, they tear down symbols from the past that stood against what people believe now, you know. So we often attack the symbols of old. We'll, if you look at all the statues of Ramesses, for example, in the Egyptian, you know, he became a symbol of dominance and hatred, and people would tear those down and smash their noses off.
You can't wipe history out, though.
No, well, I don't think we should. I personally think we should keep history and learn from it and teach everybody about history, whether it be slavery, whether it be the persecution of the Jews, whether it be the terrible things that people like Ramesses did even, you know. I mean, we should learn from history, not wipe it out. We can't destroy the symbols, but we should see them. Like the old Soviet symbols, you know, they were all torn down. They tore down all the pictures, all the statues of Lenin. And I thought I'd leave it there. You know, I'd leave it there. So even though it still has potency, because people would still look to it now, I would still leave it there and learn from it and put a plaque.
Some symbols create fear, though.
Of course they do. Most symbols are powerful. Most symbols are trying to get us to do something perhaps that we wouldn't normally do, you know, drive a nation to war, for example, or drive a nation to do things that are against their normal moral code, because symbols can be used for good and for ill, you know. I mean, there's many symbols, like the snake, for example, has multiple images. It can be a symbol of transformation, because it loses its one skin and is reborn. So some people will look at a snake and see there's an image of rebirth, of the new person coming out. And yet a snake can also be a symbol of evil, because it contains poison and it can kill a person. And a snake also moves from the earth to the heavens. So when we get a winged snake, like you were talking about the kadakas, of medicine, it can show transformation and also be a symbol of the movement of the
Kundalini. And in a Sikh religion, if a snake is under somewhere, it's a sign of good luck.
Yeah, so it's lucky. And then it can also be unlucky. So a thing can have power, because obviously snakes were, something we would fear a lot. And they're also something we wanted to tame a lot, and something that must have seemed very mysterious to the first people, no legs, and even might even be something reference to some connection we had with some ancient alien civilization that are reptilian, which I think could have happened.
Snakes.
Yeah.
Seven-headed snakes.
Well, the seven-headed snake, that defends the treasures and things like that. That comes up in multiple myths, not in Greek myths and Indian myths as well. So they're used for a purpose, often for transformation, often for a change. So they come because they represent the innermost self.
Yeah, here's another one.
Okay, what about symbol of black stone and the Kaaba Mecca, the ancient pagan symbols? Yeah, that's an interesting one, actually, I think. I mean, stone, black, in alchemy. I mean, Carl Jung was very interested in alchemy, and he often talked about the black stone as being transformed into gold. So the idea was, alchemists used to think we could change the black stone, the negro, they called it, stone, into and then it would go through the transformations of red and green, and then become eventually the gold, silver, the quicksilver, mercury, and then gold. That was the kind of the stages of alchemy.
Holy men, they produced them as lingams,
and that all represented the transformation and change of the human spirit. So when we get the black stone, it's like the origins, it's like the source, it's like the very first stage of human evolution. It's like the core of our being, and I suppose could be seen as a godlike thing. Like you said, lingams, for example, will be black stone too, won't they? I mean, that's quite an interesting observation. And yet we look towards this as a feeling again of transformation, and that Mecca stone, some say that it may have been a meteorite, and the Prophet Muhammad is supposed to have fallen from the sky on a fiery carpet, isn't he? Which could be a symbol of a meteorite that may have hit the earth at that time, and the advent of him as a teacher. Yeah, Reiki is symbolic for powerful healing. I've never studied the Reiki symbols.
It came from Japan originally, and symbolisms on all part of the body where healers concentrate on that, because most people, they train in Reiki and that from symbolisms. There's many forms of symbolism.
So I've not studied Reiki, but I think what you use in Reiki, you use that the idea is to project the healing, the spiritual prana from the body, using a symbolic symbol that you then use to project into the person's body. I don't really see why you need that, but I suppose some people would need that. It's like using words, isn't it, to say heal, heal, heal. And it adds a bit of mystery to it, I suppose, doesn't it? People love to add sort of symbolic mysteries, like the Masons do, and all the rest of it.
Oh, you like to be the angels? Yeah, I love angels. Picture.
Yeah, who did that picture? Do you remember, Jane? That was
one of the Victorian one, pre-Raphaelite one. Yeah.
I think it's in Mexico, the original picture. I saw it on some website once. I can't remember who did it now. One of the pre-Raphaelites.
Something.
Yeah, I can't remember. Okay, we're going on to some other questions. Why am I keep seeing 7:11 or 9:11 on the clock? Always 9:11, either AM or PM. It's funny but mysterious at the same time. Well, most people go on about the 11:11, don't they, for that?
Well, 11 symbolises connecting to heaven and earth. The 9 is a very symbolic number. 7 is meant to be a mystical number and things. But all numbers mean things, because most spiritual people go on number 1.
Well, the numbers sort of relate to numerology. So 1 is the bit innovation, beginning. Other numbers that are significant are 9 is the number of completion, because 9
Yes.
is the number of God, because no matter how many multiples of 9 you make
999
it.
names he's called by.
Yeah, and 108 names of God,
And
because
if you
that's
turn them around
9 times table again.
666.
You add 9 and 9, and it will always give you a number, another 9 plus 9. Oh, I don't know the times table. There's all sorts of strange mathematics that goes to the number 9. 11, I don't know why. There's a lot of people have been on about that. We had this one come up before, and we also spoke about the number 23. And if you look on the internet, there's all sorts of people saying about
33s means something, because that's the time that when Christ died.
It might be that you just observe that number and happen to notice it more because it's stuck in your mind. You know, you don't notice at the time. At the moment is 20 past 7. You know, so we don't sort of, you know, if I got that in my head, I start seeing 20 past 7 everywhere. You know, so yeah, I don't know if it has any real significance.
Look at that, Justin. Symbolism is called Eat
It. I suppose it is. Yeah, yeah.
Ain't it?
Yeah, it is interesting actually. I mean, I know a lot of people love the symbolism that they can put on their tattoos. You know.
Oh yeah, I think that's important.
You know, and they say, "Oh, this represents me." You know, and of course it does represent you in a way, because you've chosen a symbol to carry with you through your life, and often those symbols are very often connected with, again, these what Jung would have called archetypal symbols, symbols that are there since antiquity, like snakes, typical wings and things, because they're often symbols of transformation. So we take those things, and we don't know why we're choosing. We think they look cool, or we think they have some you know, we think they have some special meaning.
Isn't it a form of art?
It's a form of art, but it's appealing to something deep in your unconscious mind. If you look at the symbolism on traditional sort of tattoos, I mean, anything goes now, but you look at the sort of symbolisms that have generally come through, and there's quite often things in them that are deeply significant, like the eye comes up as a symbol quite often. The eye in the triangle, I've seen on people's tattoos.
Galleons.
And then, of course, you will use tattoos on something that is symbolic of your life. So an anchor, if you would have been one for sailors and boats and things like that.
Well, sailors have that.
But often there's snakes, a rubus, and things like that. The snake that eats its tail, that is a symbol of eternal growth. Oh, patron. Hi. Well, thanks, Tara, for being a patron. And those of you that haven't heard about the patrons, those are people that are supporting the site, helping us to go take it forward, and we have a whole community in the background. So if you're a patron, I always answer your questions if you leave something on in the public forum in the patron area. Hi, Craig and Jane. How do you perceive the symbol of the phoenix?
The phoenix,
I've always been fascinated by it.
Rising by the ashes, isn't it? Phoenix.
Well, the phoenix is a really old symbol again, and it also links to a similar symbol, which is the salamander, and that's another one from alchemy. It's the idea that what goes into the fire and is destroyed. You know, I can't remember the exact legend of the phoenix, but basically what happens, the phoenix is destroyed in the fire, but out of the fire comes the phoenix. So what it is, it's a symbol of the rebirth of something. So, you know, it could be the rebirth of your spirit. You know, I mean, quite often when a person has a religious experience, not a fanatical religious experience, a true direct religious experience, there's the dissolving of the ego. You know, the ego dissolves into the infinite.
I think they've got
and
it
a
in
new person is reborn.
they've got it in the Harry Potter.
Yeah, I mean, it's an ancient symbol of the rebirth of the soul, of the becoming the new man or woman. It's becoming the sort of enlightened being, right? So, but it also is a symbol of after destruction, something new comes, you know, and something that can fly. That something, you see, the phoenix is a firebird, isn't it? So it can fly. So it has this idea that we ascend to heaven, we ascend to the heights. We are no longer like the snake on the ground, but now with the winged animal. You know,
the phoenix, bit like what's the griffin, isn't it? The other one.
Yeah, I don't know the symbolism of the griffin. I don't know where that comes from, because we often get symbols that are like half man, half woman, half animal, and there's a lot of symbolism that we take on the power of that animal. This would have been something that had gone right back to the times of ancient people.
It's like in Venice, they've got the lion with the wings, haven't they?
Yeah, that was the symbol of the Doge, wasn't it? I think the symbol of the lion with the wings. But they become municipal symbols that have taken symbols from more ancient times. So you get, like for example, in Egypt we get the Sphinx with the half lion, half face of a man. And whether that had been put on later, there could be the case that the pharaoh's head had been carved on.
Why has it always got to be men? That's egotistical, isn't it?
Well, the symbol of women half no, it's the same. In fact, in the earlier religions, the female goddess was much more dominant and powerful than the idea of a male god. It was always
like
a female.
Helena Troy. That's one that comes to mind.
But this idea of the half man, half person, half animal. You'll see it in and it's like we take on the quality of that person. You'll see, a person's half person, half snake, half horse, half human, winged people, like someone mentioned about angels. Again, it's a symbolic of half man, half bird. So it represents transcendence, again, becoming awake. We always think of the sky as being the where the gods are, and the ground as being where the earth is and where the underworld is, and the unconscious hidden things,
and the ascending masters, higher realms.
So these symbols have lots of fascinating meanings, don't they?
What is your symbols? Ask people. Some people got their own symbols.
Perhaps you've got your own symbolic idea. Perhaps is there a symbol that particularly drives you in life? Have you had a particular one, maybe as a tattoo we talked about, or something like that? Are the birthdays symbolic? The numbers, date, month, year?
Only in astrology.
No, numerology as well.
Numerology and astrology.
It is, because
it depends if you're born on sunset or sunrise. Very important.
If you add up the date of your birth, for example, so you take, so I'm 24th of January 1954. So if I say 24 and I add the 2 to the 4 to make 6, and then I add the 1 of January to make 7, and then I add the numbers together again with the 194 and the rest, that comes to the number 8. And that means that my life path number in numerology is the number 8. So if you do that, if you add all the numbers together, or whatever your date of birth is, and keep adding them together and adding them together. So when you get to say, so you add them together, you get 23, then you add the 2 to the 3 to get 5. So you keep reducing it till you get one number. That will be your life path number. And depending upon your life path number, that will, according to numerology, give you certain qualities in life that will dominate your life. So yes, it is kind of symbolic, the numbers of the day of your birth. And then you can look into the numbers in your name. You can look into the numbers of just the consonants in your name and just the vowels in your name, and all the different combinations of these numbers will give you various numbers that represent different things in your life.
It also depends the karma too, doesn't it, on those dates of birth?
Yeah, I think there's something in numerology.
Star of David, 5-pointed star.
Star of David is like two triangles on top of each other. So one triangle is pointing downwards and one triangle is pointing upwards. So the triangle pointing upwards is man ascending, and the triangle pointing downwards is God descending. So it shows the coming together of man and God. So as a symbol, this is the idea of God in the sky sort of idea again. It's the idea of the joining together of the two symbols, the two triangles, one on top of each other. So the upside down triangle and the right way up triangle, and also, strangely enough, two pyramids as well, considering that the Jews had built the pyramids early on. So yeah, so that is a symbol. And then also in the middle, it makes a hexagon, which I think it makes a hexagon, doesn't it? I would do, yeah, I think it's a hexagon, which I presume is also a symbol of 8, but I don't know the details of that. But then there's a thing out there called Kabbalah, which looks into all this idea of numerology and all this idea of sacred geometry as well, that was all linked into the ideas of the original building of the pyramids and things like that, which the Freemasons pick up on as well and carry on in their religion, almost you could call it.
Boy Scouts.
But that was a lot of it stolen from Judaism as well. So
King Solomon,
yeah,
wasn't it? And King Solomon.
Yeah, King Solomon's temple and things like that. So all these things. There's a lot of stuff going in the background of life, maybe in even the secret societies and things, because people start to look around for symbolism. And if you look at what's it called, the thing that's on the dollar, I wrote it down so I didn't forget it. What do they call it? The Eye of Providence. That's what they call it. I couldn't remember it. The Eye of Providence. If you think of that pyramid with the eye in it as a symbolic thing of the consciousness originally, of the awakening of God, the original idea was. But then others take it as a symbol of the Illuminati, and that this Freemason symbol is stamped on the dollar, all the dollars, So it raises a lot of interesting questions of why this symbol, and do these symbols in themselves, I know they appeal to our unconscious mind, but do they also have power as a like a talisman, and do those symbols actually do things by putting that symbol onto something, and when you see symbolism hidden away in on products and things,
what about mandalas
and so forth. Well, mandalas are also kind of a symbol too, because the ultimate mandala is a circle, again, which shows wholeness, of the completion of something, of the self. If you think you can never get to the center of a circle, you can come from the outside and you go further and further to the center. Where is the final center? You put a dot in the center and that's also a circle. You go to the center of that and it's still a circle. So it's infinite. It shows like consciousness that is bound by the outside, but unbound by the inside. So it's symbolic of an awakened self. And mandalas are the same idea.
Phyllis Crystal.
I'm doing all the talking, Jane. You need to do some.
Well, I'll let you carry on. You're a man.
Yeah, go on. You have a go with it. Phyllis Crystal. You know about Phyllis Crystal.
Well, she's passed now to the higher life, hasn't she? She wrote a book for Swami, didn't she?
Yeah, well, she was. Phyllis Crystal was interestingly. She consulted the Nadis too, I believe.
Yeah.
She lived to 100 and something. I think she lived a long time. I never spoke to Phyllis Crystal. I don't think.
But she wrote to us.
Was it Phyllis Crystal?
Yes,
she
it
wrote
was.
To us once?
Yes, she did.
Oh, she did, didn't she? Yeah.
She's got an appalling memory.
No, I get her muddled up with the other one, with the two. Who wrote about Sai Baba and the afterlife. I've forgotten. Oh, my
psychiatrist.
Terrible. No, not Samuel Samwise. I spoke to once too briefly by email. No. Anyway, going back to Phyllis Crystal, she I think used a system of symbolism, didn't she?
Yes, and her husband.
Was the idea that symbol could heal and cure and have some power to it. But I'm not knowledgeable enough about that to be able to sort of give much depth of inspiration about.
Well, it's like Keith Krishna. He done the symbol on Swami's temple, and they used numerology with all numbers and everything on the stained glass window.
We got the cat here who's going to knock the microphone over.
No, he's all right. Hiya, boo.
And the symbol of the cat. Some people find white cats unlucky. We did.
It's because they're meant to go deaf, I think.
Daft, in your case. Yeah, so have any sort of symbols been very powerful to you out there? Is there something that has been important to you
white feathers.
as symbols? White feathers, yeah.
Well, they can represent many things. Somebody they used to represent in the wartime, somebody who was a coward, didn't they?
Yeah, they gave a person a white feather. A great movie, that.
Yeah.
The white feather.
And white feathers, angel feathers. White feathers are symbolic that somebody's giving you a message.
Again, with birds have a very powerful sort of symbolism. They are often, because you think again, it's people looking at that and they're looking at it before science, and how do birds fly and why do they fly, and they can go to the heavens but we can't. So words and feathers and wings and things became symbols of transcendence, symbols of the angels. The angels carry feathers. Before that, the first angels were in the time of Mesopotamia and the Sumerian religions, where they had winged beings. I keep getting feathers everywhere, especially black, grey and white ones.
Well, I would have thought grey feathers, pigeons, but black feathers, where we've got ravens, haven't we, and crows and things, white feathers, before it was just white. That's very symbolic, isn't it? It's a mixture of feathers. So
we're kind of talking there about, omens again. Like last week we did omens and things like this, and we were thinking about you know, synchronicities. And maybe, like I said, sometimes maybe symbols can actually have an effect just by writing the symbol or making the symbol, you know, like I say with the talisman. And maybe when you stumble upon a symbol, it could be something significant to you. I mean, the ancient Greeks used to look for auguries in the landscapes and things like that. Certain cloud formations would mean good or bad, ill. You know, the whole of Christianity came about because Constantine saw in the clouds a formation that was the cross, and therefore thought, I must carry that symbol, and that way I will conquer. And lucky for him, he conquered, and therefore he turned the whole Rome Christian. So the whole of modern society since then has been influenced by that one cloud formation and that one symbol that he saw in the cloud, and took that must be the banner that he must the mark he must carry on his flags.
Oh, he's so cute.
He is, isn't he?
Yeah, he's so much in love with me, this cat.
He's getting a bit older now, Boo is. Don't you knock that microphone over.
No, he won't, he won't. He's looking for treats.
So what is the them of your beautiful picture?
It's angels sleeping, dreaming.
Oh, theme.
Yeah, they're dreaming.
Yeah.
But
I can't remember the name of it. Yeah, but it's
like sleeping angels, isn't it?
it's like that
They're
moment
dreaming.
before you're waking and sleeping. You know, the pre-Raphaelites were very interesting people. Again, they, you know, this whole lot of guys here, they were all very interested in symbolism. You'll find symbolism coming up in all the great art of time. Sometimes you don't even realize they've stuck symbolism in there. You know, in the Renaissance and things, they would put.
It's nice and peaceful, that painting, isn't it?
It is a nice painting, yeah, and it gives a nice, relaxed.
Willow likes that.
You can't see the top of it, actually. You can only see the bottom on the screen, I expect. Symbols are often used in witchcraft for good and bad too, communicating with universe powers that be. Yeah, they are, aren't they? I mean, magic does.
It's paganism, isn't
does
it?
use
Witchcraft.
the power of a symbol.
Good and bad.
You know, I mean, you know, in all religions, Wicca being a religion as well. You know, the symbol is used not just symbolically within ourselves. A symbol will inspire people, and it can trigger that unconscious mind. So when we start using various symbolism, and ritualistic behavior is also symbolic, isn't it? I mean, we use rituals and things as a symbolic type of way of acting, you know, and that triggers ancient memories again.
The rishis and
I think it triggers powers too.
Well, it gives you a strength and power, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I mean, again, I often go on about India and things because, you know, it had such a strong influence upon me. But when I went to India and I did all the pujas, as we call it, these were done at a specific astrological time that the Nadi told me to do them. And there was very weird stuff sometimes that I had to do at particular times. And we had to wait until Mercury got in the right position, because that's a faster moving planet. So we'd wait until exactly 13 minutes past 2 or something like that, when we knew Mercury was in the right position in the clouds. And then I had to give the money to the person or whatever at that point. So we were doing charitable and ritualistic sort of behavior at using almost like the astrology as kind of like both a sat nav to tell where we got to be, and also an exact timing to do this ritual. And it's like highly symbolic sort of stuff that you were doing, particularly fire things, lots of things with fire and water and milk and all this sort of thing. And these are such ancient things, you know. I was thinking, well, I was doing these, but when I did them, the idea was that it was going to change my karma and move me onto another path, as it were. And it did, because I could feel it happening. And this wasn't just me getting immersed in this ritualistic behavior, because I'm not normally one for pageant and things. But it takes you into a state of consciousness where I thought to myself, you know, this is real. This is real. That what is happening is a real thing, you know. And I think once you break that connection between that and the symbolic acts you're doing, it's real, you know. I mean, going back to Nazism again, they were into using the occult arts to not only to change the course of history, you know, the sword of Lavonicus, whatever his name was, who killed the side of Christ. He held that, you know, the actions of the Nazis, underground sort of places where they would do all sorts of.
Where's the four-winged things where they got the 10 Commandments, where we saw it inside Barbara's
Yeah, and then going off also on another direction, the idea of the Ark of the Covenant you're talking about there, and the sort of almost like, you know, I mean, I like Indiana Jones, but I mean, some of those things were, I think, real.
Well, Hitler was after all that, wasn't he?
And religion does the same thing, you know, and the same thing the ancient Greeks used to do. They used to do various sort of ritualistic things, and again, very interested in the auguries. When you think of the temples of Delphi and things like that, and the things that went on there, the idea is that through symbolism, we can actually alter the course of events. You know, it's a bit like positive thinking, but you're also using magical acts and particular timings for these things. So I would never have believed in it in the past, but my experience over all these things that particularly what I did in India, and particularly the fact that it was proven to me, because these documents were so old and we're talking about my life at this present time, and no way they could know that. I mean, just convinced me. I mean, look at the symbolism you use in marriage. When a person gets married.
In India, they tie red cords around each other's waist.
Yeah, they tie the knot. The ancient Greeks used to do that. Used to tie the two people together with a piece of rope, and then that gradually changed into the idea of putting a ring
loose,
on.
Craig, because you're over there.
Yeah, but that's you know, there's lots of symbolism again in marriages and in funerals too.
Well,
you know, pennies in the eye. We talked about before.
Sharavana, the symbolism of green and Mars, because he always says, Mars, you thank your ancestors, and we all come from dust and go back to Mars.
Yeah, green's Mercury in Indian.
Yeah, but they like the green, don't they?
Yeah. Yeah, so it's the symbolism and everything, and I think it ties in a lot with the idea of astrology and what you'd call synchronicity. You know, that you do a certain thing at a certain time, and it has a special power. If you can identify that certain time, and that certain time is identified by the movement of the planets, you know, which in India, and I think also in the earlier times in Sumeria and things like that, the planets were like gods. They were like energy powers, you know. So you wait till the particular god is in the particular right position. So Saturn, it would be a powerful thing for learning. If you wanted to learn something, you would have to do a particular act at a certain time in conjunction with Saturn, and symbolism that would connect with Saturn, you know. And similarly with all the planets, and that is basically basis of magic, you know. And magic also uses this idea of sympathetic magic, that you mimic the thing you want to happen. And again, timing is important.
You're not getting many people up asking things.
So if you've got any more questions, there we go. Do you two discuss your symbol interpretations?
Well, we never discuss readings. What we give to people,
must be unique to your own interpretation. Well, you're talking about the symbols that might come up from a reading.
Well, I don't think we discuss personal readings.
Yeah, I don't actually. Most of the
it's confidential.
Most of the things that come up in readings. I mean, sometimes if something unusual's come up, we might talk to each other about it and say, "My goodness, this woman had such a terrible time. Do you know that they did this and this and this?" So sometimes we do, but most of the things, you know, we don't discuss. And actually, I suppose there's nothing really to discuss because it's so personal to the person. And I don't know about symbolic. Sometimes, but actually, a lot of psychic readers will overuse symbolism. I think, you know, I've seen it almost as an excuse for getting something wrong. You know, oh, is this such and such a thing? They're saying, oh no, that's wrong. Oh, then it's symbolic. Then I think, well, that's all a bit dodgy when you start to do that. Symbolism does come up sometimes.
The Chinese,
in the work,
it does in the Chinese, for Chinese.
But not
readings.
All those is a reading. It really, when you do a reading, you should get as much of it as normal communication as possible. You try to get a name, not a symbolic name. On a place, it's not a symbolic place.
Amberley
But symbolism can come up as well, but not to the extent some use it. Do you believe that intention is the key to the power of symbolism?
What do you think?
Do as thou wilt. That's what Crowley said.
Well, he's nutty anyway. High on drugs all the time.
But the intent does actually, yes. I think intent is a powerful thing, because I think we can. I think we can change the course of events by the power of our will up to a point.
Thoughts.
But
thoughts
ultimately, it's down to our karma. But I think in a short-term way, we can use the power of intent to change things, particularly if that intent is positive.
Well, thought, because every thought goes out to the ether, positive energy, positive things happen. You don't allow negative energy into your life, do you?
No, so I think we do have control, don't we? Because every step of the way on the path of life, we have to make decisions about what to do next. Whatever any psychic has told us, or oracle, we have to always make the decisions. So will is in everything we do, and also I think can work on a transcendental level too, particularly in conjunction with the symbolism like we've been talking about. I must admit, if I have a weird dream, I do look up the meaning of it. I hope you use my book. Had a dream about baby foxes last night. It's purely your subconsciousness. Yeah, but it's also you, isn't it? What is the subconscious?
Well, baby foxes, protection. They need protection, don't they? Because everyone hunts foxes, don't they? And try to kill them. Yeah,
it's you say it's purely your subconscious. Yeah, but it's the subconscious. You've almost dismissed the subconscious there, haven't you? Because the subconscious is you. It's your underlying thinking, And foxes are an interesting one. Often foxes are often what Jung called. Yeah, but Jung called them a trickster figure. Sneaky foxes are. They're sly, aren't they? We say sly as a fox. So symbolically, a fox.
But these are baby foxes.
Yeah, so something is happening on a baby. The baby bit's important when you're interpreting the symbolism of that. Something new is appearing in your life, either in you or in other people around you. Protection. And maybe there's a whole group of people who are a bit sly like a fox and not telling you the truth. So we can take a symbol like a fox, what we know about it, and we can say, well, what is my unconscious mind telling me here? Because, like I said, your old ancient mind is thinking in old terms. People for thousands of years would have been much more closer to nature, and foxes would have meant something much more to them than they might to us today, where we rarely see them. So it might have some symbolic meaning like that in your dreams.
Elizabeth, I always believe butterflies are signs from the spirit world, and sometimes you see might be 3 or 5 butterflies. I think they're symbols and signs, and I feel they're beautiful creatures.
Yeah, we get loads of them because we got so many buddleia trees in my garden that I look after all the time. Butterflies are often thought to be souls of the dead. In superstition, you remember we did one superstition the other day, and often think about them as souls of the dead because they flutter like a butterfly.
Depends what colours they are.
That's kind of how you'd imagine the soul would.
Blue butterflies, healing. White butterflies, purity and light. Then you get the mixture of the tortoise shell butterflies, and then you get the red admirals. They all mean things.
And the important thing of butterfly, again, it's a bit like that image of the snake we talked about. The snake sheds its skin to become a new being. And the butterfly goes through a metamorphosis, doesn't it? It goes from a caterpillar, which is a earthbound, ugly sort of creature, really, bound to eating and eating and eating, and then it goes through a transformation stage, which is like when it becomes the pupae, and it gradually changes, and then it breaks open into the butterfly. So when the butterfly emerges, this is like again symbolic of the transformation of the soul, because we've gone from earthly to transcendental. So again, the butterfly is like a symbol of us becoming sort of
Doesn't it
higher
die?
beings.
Doesn't it die after 74 hours or something? Butterfly.
Yeah, they don't live long, but I don't think people look that into the symbolism of that so much. I think, it's just going to die and it's going to become dust. From London, Ruby. I've been finding it strange sometimes to choose some road that awake a certain suspicion. The route or road has some symbolic name to my life at that period.
Coincidence.
Yeah, so something on the name of the road
Coincidences.
obviously puts you off. It says something like a person's name you might know, or something like
Don't go there.
Yeah, but we do, even though we live in a modern age, don't we? We're still very superstitious.
Yes.
We still do things that we don't like to break the rules. And this is again symbols coming out in a way, isn't it? Don't you think? It's symbols coming out in people's lives. I mean, if you've had anything interesting like this, and also put them in the comments later if you come back and look at this video again, or put your ideas down, because we do look at all your comments, and it influences what we're going to talk about next time and things like that, and your questions. So do put comments in the comments below.
Heather's saying it's sad how the swastika was so misused by the Nazis in India. The same spot is very spiritual. That's very true. Yeah,
well, we were talking again. It's still there, isn't it, in India? I mean, it still has the symbol of the on the nut of the swastika, in both directions actually. So I don't know the full meaning. I always understood it as the unfolding of Dharma, and the Buddhists use it too, don't they?
Tibetan.
No, it's pre that. It was Hindu, and it might go back even further still. I mean, we don't know the origins of all these symbols, because they're very ancient, and Nordic runes and Egyptian hieroglyphs.
They're quite powerful.
Hieroglyphs are symbols. The old languages were the most connected to symbolism. Yeah, because they drew in pictures, weren't they?
Like the sun and things and Symbolic.
Yeah, I mean, that's how you would do it, isn't it? If I was to if I didn't have language, it would say it's going to be a sunny day tomorrow. I draw a picture of a sun, and I might draw a picture of a person the sun.
People use rune stones because it can foretell things.
Well, they say the rune stones can have magic powers. Hitler used the rune stones a lot, and you'll see runes carved in. It was almost a symbol of dominance too, because the Vikings.
And another thing, Hitler was a vegetarian too. Yeah,
I know. Yeah. I found him an interesting man in that I quite often watch programs about him, because there's everything we do in reverse, but using the same powers in a negative way. And God knows what goes on in the background of the world at the moment. How many people are using this sort of thing now? It wouldn't surprise me. I meant different symbols that you might interpret differently, not discussing personal readings. Oh, this is the one about, do we talk about the symbols that come up in our readings? Well, we don't just, we actually, going back to that again, we don't really talk about each other's readings much.
No,
I mean, Jane does her readings, I do mine.
Mine's
and that tends to be the end
Mine's
of it.
Face to face, and it's personal, because people trust us, and it's like people from all different walks of life. We wouldn't go and sell stories to the media and that, because we keep it to ourselves. Because
sometimes things come up in readings. You get ideas and things come up in readings. Like, I might be doing a reading for someone, and then they might ask me, "Oh, what's going to happen in South Africa or something?" And I instantly say it because I'm tuned in, and I think later on I better write that down because it's come through. So sometimes predictions and things come up through personal readings that I then think, I'm going to.
We don't tell each other readings or even what person's coming, because sometimes I have to sign a confidentiality who's coming to me. I wouldn't even tell Craig.
Yeah, and sometimes, particularly if you've got well-known people, you've got to be careful as well. Yeah. You don't want to go blabbing everybody's business, otherwise other people don't come to you back again either. I wouldn't.
That sounds lovely. Agility bits. If you experience something in meditation, should it be treated as a symbol? For example, in meditation, I was in a cherry blossom the other day. That sounds very Japanese, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think, yes, you could treat it as a symbol. Definitely. I mean, that sounds rather nice. Spring, awakening, new life, blossom, things like that. And obviously in the meditation, it's shown the energy that's around you. But it might also have literal meanings too. Maybe you had previous lives in Japan or something like that, or cherry blossom has other meaning to you.
I'd be very lucky, cherry blossom.
But we'll often get very powerful symbols come up in meditation and dreams. The tree itself is a very, very powerful symbol.
Have you seen this one?
The tree is a symbol of life.
Not being this Ginny, not being rude, but what is the original meaning of sticking 2 fingers up?
Don't know. I don't know. That's an interesting one, that, isn't it? That's quite a good one.
Because it came from the cavemen.
Yeah, I don't know where that comes from. And we all take it as a symbol. And also, I mean, 1 finger, I think, is more like a phallus symbol, I would have thought. That's why you.
Well, that says it all, Craig. Don't but you men.
That says it all. Way. 2 fingers? Yeah, I don't know. Because I don't know. I don't want to think about it too much, actually.
No, but this is a symbol as well that they used. Many years ago, they used to use it. No, for the devil, didn't they? And they do now. The Hindu symbol does that.
Actually, the hands have often been in India. Again, we have what we call the mudras. And certain positions of the hand are connected with astrology as well, because they connect with each hand as a different god, like Vishnu for the first finger. I can't remember them all. And then they also have symbolic energies to each one and planets to each of the fingers. I can't remember them now. That's Mercury, Sun, Jupiter, Saturn in the middle. And anyway, and so the fingers are considered as being powerful energies. And the positions of the fingers in meditation are important. So
if you can see certain kin birds, it can also be inspired like a red robin. Well, sometimes people fear red robins because it's meant to be the blood of Christ, and also it's meant to be symbolic of death, trying to get a message to you.
The robin is supposed to pull the thorns from, pull the thorns out of his head, And then there's I was listening on the certain trees didn't bow to the Christ and would forever shiver. I can't remember which one that one was now. The ash, I think. All the things that happen.
Yes, because they say don't bring an ash or white may in the house because it's unlucky.
I think it was the ash, because when the wind blows through the ash, it shivers and it makes a shivery sort of weird sound. And it said it's forever in pain because it didn't bow before Christ or something. But yeah, so lots of symbolism gets picked up by religions and used for its own ends. Emoji symbols used a lot these days. Yeah, I suppose so. They're not very good symbols, though.
No, not really.
But again, it is a symbol. You're right, and it's a quick way of putting an idea across, because a symbol will say so much more than thousands of words, won't it? A powerful symbol is enough. Sometimes you don't have to say, it's like, once you've established a symbol as your powerful symbol, the hammer and sickle, okay, that says everything about communism. It says workers, it says the power of the hammer to
Russia
build things. It shows power. It shows the red of the background of energy, so that becomes a very powerful symbol for a long time. And it would be better than saying workers of the world unite or any of those type of things, the symbol itself becomes the driving force, and the same for all flags, maybe, and all strong symbolic things, So don't forget, guys, to like and share this, because if you click that like button, it helps us get higher rankings. So go and click it now. Come on, I'm not going to say anything until you click that like button, and come back and click it again later. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you're new, because I know a lot of you that follow us live have probably had a notification so you come here. But if you click that little bell thing, you'll get a notification. And next time we come on live with a new subject, you'll hear from us, because you'll get the message from YouTube. And if you leave a comment, we're always looking for new ideas. So put in the comments, what would you like us to do next? What would you like next Friday's topic to be? Put your comments below. We're going to get some more guests as well later on. If you'd like to be a guest, do please contact me through the website at psychics.co.uk on the contact page, and we can have you in for a guest. If you've got something you'd like to talk about, something you've had an interesting experience, maybe if you've been or even if you've kind of got an expertise about a particular subject, you don't have to be a huge expertise, just interested in the topic. We'll have you on, and you can sort of interact with us through video later on. Right. Okay. So have we got any more questions, or are we coming to the end of it now? Where does 666 come from?
Well,
do you know?
There was 999 names that God's called, and if you turn it, so that's good. And if you turn it round the other way, 666 names are meant to be from the devil, isn't it? But it also can represent mantras, 666 mantras.
I can't remember behind it. You can look it up on YouTube or on the web, but I did look it up once. 666 came originally, it was something to do with Nero, the Emperor Nero. And he was considered as being the great evil one. And the references that are in Revelations, for example, to 666 were the hatred of the people of the time towards Nero. And then more as time progressed, it became associated with the devil, and therefore the idea of evil. But originally, I'm not quite sure how 666 related to Nero, but it was a Roman thing connected with him, and that's how it developed. Yeah, it was written in Revelations later, but Revelations was written after Nero, because it says Revelations of John, but there was a different John that wrote that.
Oh, that's sweet. Thank you very much, Annie. Really enjoyed this evening. Staying in with you two is the new going out.
Yeah, it's quite fun, isn't it? I feel like you're all in our living room with us here, and it's nice that you all have been joining us. Palmistry is an interesting idea. Yeah, we could do something on palmistry.
Yes.
I could definitely. I've got a video up on palmistry.
Indians are very good at palmistry.
But I could tell you a bit about the basics.
Yeah, we do.
But I don't know how I could make a whole interactive questions and answers with that, because my knowledge of palmistry is reasonably. I know enough about palmistry, but I don't know the nitty gritty detail. But probably know enough to give you an interesting talk on it.
Well, you do health lines and lifelines.
Is there anything symbolic about your yellow mug? No, it's just a John Lewis mug, I think, wouldn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. My Rat Studios one's a bit more interesting. Hi, Greg and Jane. I would love if you would cover 1 week past life hypnotic regression. Good idea.
Yeah.
Yes. As it helps bring past life issues brought over to the present life. Yeah, I think that's not a bad idea, John. Actually, that is a good idea. And I've had some experience of that too, and I think you have too, haven't you?
Well,
Jane?
I had a past regression life, and I went back to France, and I was going up a long driveway with all trees, and I had looked like a kestrel land on my lap. I can take that because I've always been fascinated with chateaus.
Yeah, I can say an awful lot about that too. So that's a topic
Japan.
we could use. From Nagasaki. Oh, wow. Oh, yeah. And from Toronto in Canada.
Hi, hello, guys. Natalie.
So
it's lovely.
It's good you've all been on. So
only holy places like Glastonbury, ley lines are interesting too.
Yeah, it would be nice to go. Well, actually, Glastonbury is not too far to go and do a live from Glastonbury. We could get an internet connection.
Tour.
That would be quite fun. So if any of you are down there in Glastonbury, invite us down. We'll come down to your place. We'll do a live from Glastonbury.
We had a honeymoon at Glastonbury.
Yeah, we on our honeymoon. We went to Glastonbury. We went to the Pilgrims Inn, was it, or something?
Yeah, 32 years
ago. And it was supposed to be haunted, so that's why we went there. We went there for a haunted honeymoon, didn't we? And we had all Ghostbusters on the car, and we sailed it in a spiritualist church. So, and then we were off to Glastonbury. So everybody thought we were bizarre. I know people do them. How about talking about the call bearer? Have you heard of that subject?
I can't say I have, to be personal.
No, I haven't. No, that's interesting. Go and look it up. Yeah, but this is it. But write it in the comments too, other people, because if you're getting ideas, this is great, because you can get cornered into doing similar type of stuff, and I like to open it up and know what you're interested in. In the future, would love to hear about different stages after death. That's not a bad idea. Where do you think our loved ones go initially? I've heard there are different stages, and I'm curious. Yes, I wrote a bit about that in my book, What to Do When You're Dead, which has got a new lovely cover on it with some fantastic photographs by Domenico. It's worth buying just for the cover because it's got me on it. But it tells you a lot of stories about Jane and our work, but also this idea of what happens after death. What are the stages, and do we wake up immediately, and do we sleep? Do we get healed? All those type of things. Thanks very much for everything you're doing. Can we have a talk about visualization?
Yes.
Well, we can, but I'm also producing. If you're a patron, I'm doing some live visualization things again, because I started doing some meditation ones. There'll be some more of those we're going to do live from the other room, and so I'll be doing some more about visualization, not just the theory of it, but also take you on some visualizations using symbolism to trigger the inner forces.
And I think next time I show you my spiritual room, because everyone's seen your
we've never been in there.
meditation.
That'd be a good idea. We could do one from in there. That would be quite a good idea. I've never thought about that. I think the wires are just about stretched that far.
Well, we filmed in there before for the BBC, so it should be.
Thank you for a great show. Thank you, John. It's nice when people like it.
Oh,
Thanks
thank
again.
you.
Thanks, Lita. Yeah, it's nice of you guys. It's kind of like just a casual chat, isn't it? What we do.
Yes, I am very elegant. Too elegant for this man.
It's fun, yeah, it is, and it's nice when you all into Act 2 like this too, because it makes it into an interesting evening for everyone. And don't forget, share it, please. If you're on Facebook watching it now, share it, because then other people will be. It's going off live now, but if you share it, it will still be seen, and all your friends will see it, and your friends will be starting coming on. So we start to build a bit of a community. And if you're watching it on YouTube, you embed it in a site or something, just share it, and it helps us to move this forward and get more and more subscribers. Because once we get 100,000 subscribers, YouTube will help us to go take it to the next stage. So you get all sorts of extras that we'll be able to do for you. And thank you too, Vicky. Thank you all for joining us tonight. And thank you, Grange.
And you all have a great weekend.
So we're going to be saying bye now, aren't we? So
yes.
I'm glad you're all so many nice comments. So anyway, next week will be one of your topics. So write them below, and particularly if you're a patron, I always give you priority. Don't forget, if you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to comment. Don't forget to click that like button. And if you really like what we're doing, also become a patron, because we put other little bits on there that you can follow. And, it does help a great deal with not just this, but also our charitable work. But more importantly, the idea that we're trying to build a spiritual center, and that's what ultimately we're doing all this, we're doing all this so we can take it to the next level, so that we can do some really big scale spiritual work. And that comes if you become a patron. So go and have a look at the patron page. You can see it on our website, psychics.co.uk, or psychic.co.uk/foundation will get you there, or it'll be in the description below, which is even easier for you. So go and have a look and find out what we're trying to really do here, and and the objective of our spiritual work. Anyway, I've talked too much tonight, haven't I? Really?
He has rather, hasn't he? It's good night from me.
And it's good night from her. I think someone else used that. Okay. Thank you. Bye for now.
Bye.